Some might call James Wan the master of modern horror. He has given us franchises like The Insidious, Conjuring, and even started off the Saw franchise. And after doing a couple big blockbusters like Furious 7 and Aquaman, he's returning to do a passion project called Malignant, which, man, this was hidden from critics. There was no word of buzz really much about this, just that James Wan is making a brand new horror film, and the only thing that I really heard about this movie was that the test screenings were not too great. But let me tell you right now, Malignant will go down as not just a cult classic, but as one of my favorite horror films from this year. Won't be like that for everyone. Like, if you tell me I hate this movie or you thought it was funny, I would totally get it. But we got a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're discussing Malignant. Now, of course, this will be a non-spoiler review overall because there are a lot of twists and turns, especially towards the third act, that you do not want to know going in because the trailer did a really good job at hiding it, and when you finally see the movie, your jaw will hit the goddamn floor. At least it did for me. And I have a lot of love for this movie. Again, this isn't a perfect movie. I think there are certain elements in it that I think will not work for everyone, but for me, this took me back to the days of when I used to sit on like our futon couch up in California's Big Bear area with my dad, and we would watch horror films every night in October leading up to Halloween night. And I miss those days, I miss watching, these creature features or even horror movies I've probably never seen again in my life, but Malignant gave me back that campy feeling that I haven't seen in a horror movie in such a while. Honest to God, when I think of camp, the last campy horror film I probably saw was Cabin in the Woods that really much embraced that cheesiness. But for me, Malignant embraces it while also mixing in tons of other elements, and it's going to be an exciting conversation here. So, of course, Malignant is starring the likes of Annabelle, Wallis, and it also is directed by James Wan and written by him. Story here is Madison is paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders, and her torment worsens as she discovers that these walking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. It's up to her to find out what is going on. Now, if you guys are new here, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below your guys' thoughts on the movie, because I want to have a great discussion on it down below. Flat out, I think the movie is awesome. You see it from the thumbnail, you see it from the title, and if you didn't feel that way, I really understand that. I kind of want to get my one con out of the way for this movie, because I don't think this will be for everyone. I do not think my girlfriend would think this is scary, and in fact, I don't even think the movie is that scary. Honestly, when it comes to James Wan horror movies, the only one that has actually gotten right under my skin is the original Conjuring film. Besides that, I always find his horror films to be really exciting and really fun because it's always unique and original, and the story's always something different to be held. There's either the psychological tension or the slasher tension, or in general, this demonic presence that I feel like as a horror director, he always mixes the realm. And when I found out he was doing a new horror movie and it was so mysteriously shrouded and you didn't know what it was really much about, it mixes a bunch of different elements. This is kind of a slasher movie, but in the sense it's a psychological horror movie. And at the same time, it's kind of an homage to Italian horror films, and I really love how he was able to bring that all together. Big con of this movie, and I think it will be a major con for most people, is the cheesy, campy feeling. For me, I embraced it fully. I loved it, and I think if you embrace it, you're also going to love it. And if you're missing that type of stuff, this is what this movie will have for you. I sat there just in love with it because I just couldn't get enough of that campy feeling, and I just sat there just wanting to see where the next bit of the story would go. But if you don't embrace that, you're going to find yourself just thinking this is a stupid movie with a stupid twist, and I'll understand that completely. But for me, it swept me in, and I was embracing the whole entire tone of this film. And adding into there, the one thing I do want to give is that while I said it's not as scary as I was hoping it would be, there are some pretty damn good effective jump scares in here. But my favorite thing about it all was actually the story itself, finding the twists and turns of what this demon Gabriel is all about and what is going on with it. The twists and turns, again, that the story takes is something that I was not expecting. And when you get to the third act and you actually see and understand what is going on, your jaw will hit the goddamn floor. Like, my jaw went just like that, and I just sat there like, what is going on? Oh my god, that is freaking awesome. Then it actually shifts, like the whole entire story shifts to a more slasher centric towards the third act, and there are some blood gory fest kills in here. I mean, this is easily James Wan's goriest movie yet, and probably one of the goriest horror films I have seen in quite a while. The kills in here are brutal. Bones snapping, arms ripped off, heads chopped off, moved. It is like straight up just insane, but I ate it all up. In fact, it got to the point where I was watching some of these kills happen and some of the movements and just certain things where I sat there laughing unintentionally because I found it just fun. Like, Malignant is just a fun horror movie that I just loved diving into. Twisted in the way that James Wan is really able to direct and write this movie, and I found one of the biggest elements of it that kept me intrigued was the way that he had camera angles and set pieces layered out. You can really much see how he's taken his inspirations from, of course, like Aquaman and Furious 7, and seeing how he was able to direct those big blockbusters and how he's able to bring those big action set pieces into a horror slasher movie and bring it to life in a unique way that not many slasher films have ever had. And on top of that, I loved the score and music for this because I actually think it added a little bit more of tension to every single sequence and moment, and James Wan just knows what he's doing when it comes to horror. Overall, just the twisted nature of the movie is some of the most brilliant stuff of it all. James Wan knew exactly what he was doing with this movie. He wanted to set out to make something that was completely different than any other horror movie he's ever made. He's stated that, he's talked about that, and I didn't know how he was going to be able to do that, but watching the movie, I'm like, we haven't gotten a horror movie like this in quite a while, at least a big blockbuster, and I kind of applaud Warner Brothers for doing this and actually letting him run forward. This is truly his movie through and throughout. Also will say this, they should not have hidden this from the critics, and it actually kind of annoyed me that they didn't screen this for many people, and I understand the twist is a big element of it, and that was one of the big reasons they said they weren't screening it for many. But this is a movie that needed that love, needed that organic love, and I feel like I really hope this movie does good, because if you love horror and you're just wanting something a little bit different and unique and maybe just something that's just absolutely fun, Malignant has your back. True star of this entire movie is James Wan. His directing, his writing, his story capabilities in here are all there. The way that he was able to bring this campy, fun horror movie once again to the big screen, and even the smaller screen if you're watching it from HBO Max, was kind of brilliant. Annabelle Wallis, I think, actually does a pretty good job. George Young, Madison, Hasson, and even Michole White. All of them are good. The whole entire cast is good in here. But really much the true star is James Wan and his horror talents that he always brings to the screen. I loved Malignant. I thought it was one of the most fun movies that I've seen this year, honest to God, especially when it comes down to horror. Horror tries to take itself so serious nowadays, and I feel like just this campy throwback that kind of just gave me nostalgia from when me and my dad used to watch horror movies was kind of a big fun, and I think you're going to feel that exact same way. Again, not too scary, and it's not going to be for everyone. I understand the cheesy and campy stuff will, like, really turn off people immediately. Like, there are some melodramatic things where I was like, okay, let's suck me in, but thankfully the story did suck me in, and I understood exactly what James Wan was doing from the start. If it didn't, I could understand intentionally why someone would be like, this is stupid, but when you get to that third act, man, it's insane. Honestly, James Wan has done it again. Malignant is a bonkers, brilliant, and insane, brutal gore fest that took me back to watching horror films all through October with my dad when I was younger. It's campy, it's unique, and it's wholly original, and we need more horror films like this. It will not be for everyone, but if you truly embrace it, you are going to eat it up and love it like I did. This is one of my favorite horror movies of this year. I loved how insane it was. I love how different it was, and again, that twist had my jaw on the floor. I love what James Wan was able to do with this. I was worried hearing all the hesitation from certain people and other things that I'd heard about the movie, but thankfully it blew my expectations out of the water, and I cannot wait to revisit this again, show other people this movie, and absolutely this film will become a cult classic from years to come. So with all that said, I'm going to give Malignant an A-. Love this movie. I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts, even if you hated it or loved it too. So let's have that discussion down below in the comment section. Make sure as well to head on over to Samsung Films on how to see films early. And of course, it's a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I would not be able to do this. So of course, until next time, stay classy.